Welcome back to the Real Power Podcast. We've got a double guest show today. This is the first time I was telling them that we've had two guests, so I've had to set up more cameras than usual in here, but very excited to have these guys in. We have Dr. Mike Stewart and Dr. Sean Rutherford, co-owners of ROC Physical Therapy, Rochester's premier physical therapy clinic for one-on-one care. With the current trend in physical therapy being treating a high volume of patients resulting in less individual attention, ROC Physical Therapy takes the opposite approach with one-on-one visits, maximizing personal attention so that recovery, relief from pain, and improved performance can happen as quickly as possible. I can't talk today. Mike and Sean, thank you for being here today, guys. I think this is going to be a good episode for, again, the younger entrepreneurs who maybe they want to start some kind of practice of their own, whatever the field may be. I think you guys will have a lot of wisdom to share today. So thank you for being here. I don't know where to look because there's two people here. Thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Exciting. So let's start with you, Mike, just because owner of the business, started it back in. What year did you start?
2019.
2019?
Yep, November of 2019.
Okay.
Yep.
Take us back to 2019 and kind of what your life was like back then and how your entrepreneurial journey really begins.
Yeah, I mean, ROC Physical Therapy started at a point where I wasn't sure if I still wanted to be a physical therapist, believe it or not. I had worked since 2013 after I graduated from Nazareth in the area and like outpatient and sports for a couple different companies, some hospital-based systems, some privately owned, and starting to get burned out. I mean, the trend was, insurance rates were kind of low and we need to see more volume to, pay a profession that has a doctorate now, because physical therapy switched to a doctoring profession. So we ended up, having to see more volume. So I was getting a little burned out, and it was getting frustrating for me knowing what I wanted to do and how I wanted to apply my skills as a physical therapist and not really able to find the niche. So I was mentioning to you before, like it was really close to me saying like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, although I love physical therapy. So I started having that kind of conversation with my wife and started reaching out to other PTs that might feel the same way. And then all of a sudden I started looking more into, the performance and cash-based kind of realm, and said, all right, this is going to be my last shot sort of thing. Like, I haven't been enjoying myself, let's say, working for other people. So let's work for myself, and just kind of dove in, and within a few months opened up my own space and had a vision. And
how scary was that?
I mean, it was scary, but like you're counting on yourself. So, you're accountable when you start your own business. You're going to put in the effort you want to put in. Like, you're the one that's going to fail if you fail. So I knew I could do it. Like, I believed I could do it. I wasn't necessarily sure how to do it.
Right.
But so the scary part was just like, I think, leaving the steady lifestyle of working for someone, always guaranteed paycheck, like most entrepreneurs, but had a ton of support from friends, family. My wife and I were in a situation where we could take the risk. We didn't have kids yet. So it was kind of perfect timing. So I did it. And 5 years later, here I am.
Here we are. Yeah. Well, that's huge, having the wife's support too.
Yeah.
I think people, like, having a partner who supports you when you're an entrepreneur is everything, because you're already second guessing yourself, and to have someone that is as well, it'd be tough. So talk to me about where Sean comes into the picture here, because it was just you for a little bit. And then when does he come in?
Yeah. So 3 months after I opened up, we had COVID, right? And that was like, oh boy, what did I just do, sort of thing. So the funny thing about how we do things and being a very like one-on-one and like intimate setting and really putting, the patient gets our whole attention for the whole appointment, we started growing because of COVID. People were calling us and leaving some of these more busy clinics and hospital systems because they were afraid to go there with the volume, and calling us and saying, hey, I'd like to come in. We heard you do only one-on-one. So I got busy, and I was like, okay, I need to find someone very like-minded that I can just throw into the mix as I'm learning how to be a business owner. I need a therapist that is really strong to come in and just be able to see people and help me, build the company. So Sean and I both went to Nazareth, and we both started kind of down this journey of potentially teaching for a continuing education company, which we both had kind of those same interests and background, and we were training to be educators for this company. So we kind of reconnected through that. And then when we were continuing to talk, he's like, oh, my wife and I think we're going to come back to the area and settle down. Or at that point, fiance, I think, right? Girlfriend. Yeah. So they were from Syracuse. So I said, hey, you want to join? And,
Yeah.
And that literally, I think, was like the interview. Like,
Yeah, we had a phone call.
We had a phone call, and it was like a really easy hire for me.
It's like,
so,
you're in.
Yeah. So November, a year after I started, I brought Sean on, I think almost to the day. And then I left for 10 days after you started and was like, figure it out, I'll be back. I was on a vacation, but so I brought him in, and he just was able to hit the ground running, like probably one of the best therapists I know. And it was really easy to just be like, all right, here's how to run the systems and stuff, but, just do what you do best at fixing people.
Yeah.
And then that naturally just kept helping the company grow, having people on the same page.
And Sean, what was it about Mike that like you were attracted to? Because obviously you, as a talented physical therapist, could really go anywhere you want. What is it about
besides the looks?
The dashing, handsome looks over there?
Yeah, I mean, I guess just knowing that we did things similarly, knowing that we had a circle within our profession that Mike and I were both a part of.
Yeah.
And, we followed, from an education standpoint, followed the same kind of instructors.
Yep.
And we were learning the same kind of things. So I think it was just a seamless fit. I was a travel physical therapist.
Okay.
My wife and I both were. We traveled the country for 3 or 4 years, working short-term contracts. I knew that I was getting frustrated, similar to Mike, with like that insurance-based model. Just seeing how, in all parts of the country, it was just a nightmare dealing with at times. So I knew that I wanted to go cash-based. I kind of thought that I would start my own thing, and then ended up getting linked with Mike, and it was just a much easier transition.
Yeah.
So
you were ready to actually start your own thing, and then you saw what he had.
It was in the back of my
already.
mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And that was, it was during COVID. There was a lot of uncertainty. That kind of drove my wife and I to look at settling down. We probably, without COVID, would have continued to travel, but jobs were few and far between, and we were traveling. There wasn't anything to do. Everything was closed.
Yeah.
Trails were closed. We couldn't even go hiking. So we were just kind of driven, I guess, to settle down quicker than we thought, and connected with Mike. I don't even remember how we initially connected.
Yeah, I think it was just through like our circle of like-minded
network,
people that we have a lot of really strong clinicians from Nazareth and that we all kind of stayed in touch, and I think it just kind of organically happened that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Match made in heaven.
That's right.
So.
Let's bring it back to those early days for the people watching who maybe want to go down a similar path. Like, how did you get those first couple clients and get traction going?
Yeah, I think, for me, I started practicing in 13. So we're talking 6 years after being a physical therapist for a couple different companies, trying to find where I felt like I fit.
Sure.
And going out and, getting a board specialty and trying to make not only a name for myself, but like I wanted people, no matter who I worked for, to be like, I want to go see Mike Stewart. I want to go to this company.
You are the brand.
I wanted to kind of like self-brand within the companies I was doing, and I really tried to, use my education to do that and my contacts. So I already had a lot of allied health professionals, like chiropractors, massage therapists, personal trainers, even people like dentists that have people with jaw pain that already knew me and, knew I worked for other companies, but were referring people by name to me. So I think that, for advice, like that's huge. Like if you think you might want to do your thing one day, and not everybody does this, but, start going out there and creating your own brand a little bit and get those referral sources that know you do a good job and want to support you. So when I started, I that's what I did is I reached out. I said, hey, chiropractors, hey, friends, hey, family, I'm starting my own thing. If you think anybody kind of fits the people that I'm looking for, give me a chance, send them my way. So I had a lot of support from people and relationships I already knew, and even physicians I already knew to kind of get the ball rolling.
Yep.
But when you're like a one-man show, there's only so much you could do, and that's kind of what pushed me so quick to bring Sean in, is I knew I was going to need, I wasn't great with social media. I had a family starting at that point. I had my first kid in May of 2020, so I needed people to help with going to an event and things like that. So I guess you have to put in a grind, but my mentality was I don't want my whole life to be my job.
Sure. Yeah.
So I need to rely on some of these contacts so that I can have that good, work-life balance. The relationships I had, I definitely went after those right away. you know, like, hey, you guys already know what I do. I'm doing my own thing. You know, just give me a hand, help me out, and you know, one hand washes the other.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the name of the game in any business, right? When you're first getting started, everybody has a network. Everyone has a contact in their phone.
Yep.
Like, go through and just see, because you never know who, like, your Uncle Johnny knows all these other people. And like, the world's a crazy spider web of connections. And I'm sure when Sean came in, he brought his whole network in, and now you guys have really double the amount of exposure going out there. Is it just you guys in the company right now? Do you have anyone else?
We do have someone that helps us remote. Her name's Shelby. She's awesome. Like, she kind of works from home. She's a professional photographer, so she helps us with social media. So she does some of the, you know, admin work on the back end. One thing Sean and I have to work on is delegating. Like, and that was hard for me, is like, this was my baby sort of thing. So delegating, even to when I brought Sean on at first, was really hard, besides the social media. Because I just didn't.
You just
like
gave
it.
that to him.
I was
He's
just
like, yeah.
I didn't give you the option.
He's like, I got
for quality,
this.
and that's a good thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was really hard to delegate. So, you know, we brought Shelby in a couple months ago, right? Beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's, you know, helping us with even just things like answering phones, emails, texts, helping us set up events, being at events, getting, you know, photos.
Yeah.
We had another therapist that worked for us for just over a year, who ended up leaving and doing her own thing. So I guess at the height, you know, there was 3-4 of us working at once, but it's right now just Sean and I.
Where do you guys see it going? Do you want to, I know you were telling me a little elevate, you want to keep it more boutique, but like, how many therapists do you see you guys growing to? Yeah.
So, I mean, getting into like what I want ROC Physical Therapy to be is not this brand that's on every corner. I want to keep it somewhat small with a really high level of service that we can provide that, you know, sets us apart. I think seeing someone at like, you know, seeing our company at like 5 people, 2 or 3 locations, you know, spread out in the area, is probably like ideal.
Yeah.
I don't want to have 100 people in my company. I think it'll take away a little bit for why I started ROC PT and, you know, my vision of it. I just want to have, like you said, a premier level place where everybody knows they're going to get the best they can get, you know, and if that's what they want, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So we want clients that want to see us.
I love that. Yeah. And I think that makes all the difference. Like, I've seen your guys' Google reviews, like, people know when they're truly taken care of more than the average person does. And like, that customer service is so crucial. It's what allowed me to really grow so fast, is caring about every client. Like, they were my only client. I always say that, like, if you treat every client like they're the only one that you have, you're going to have a lot of clients that are raving fans of you and support you and help you grow. So I think that mentality is something that, if you're a younger entrepreneur watching, you have to do like the unscalable in the beginning. Like, even going out of your way to do little things that you know you probably won't be able to do as you continue to grow. Like, that's setting that foundation, I think, is what sets businesses apart.
It's funny, we were kind of having a conversation the other day about, like, you know, when we were listening to some of the podcasts you have done, and like the grind, and people talk, you always got to be grinding and stuff. And we've almost taken, I don't want to say the opposite approach, but we've tried to find, you know, as entrepreneurs, like the best bang for the time sort of thing. Like, when I hired Sean, like, one of the things I told him is, like, we all want to make money. We all want to make lots of money, right?
Yeah.
I get that. But I have 2 kids now. He has a daughter now as well. And what's more important to me is that I can live the life I want to live, and the business can support that. But I also want every employee to feel that way. I want, if you're going to work for ROC PT, I want you to feel like you can take days off, that you don't need to come in if you don't feel good, that if a kid's homesick or has a game, you can be there. The goal isn't that you get burnt out and get into that whole situation where I wanted to leave the profession more. So that work-life balance is kind of where I kind of introduced ROC PT to him, is like, I expect us to obviously keep the business going and be profitable, but, you know, I have a very fine line between like going too far and doing too much, and also, you know, keeping a business separate from my personal life. So I kind of use that, I guess, as like a selling point of why we're different and why I'd want to bring someone on as an employee who wants those same principles. You know, so. And
I'm sure, Sean, you resonate with that just as much.
Yeah, absolutely. Even more so now, you know, having a child.
Kid now.
You know, it's just nice. My wife and I still do a lot of traveling, and, it's easy to just take a Friday off and make a long weekend. And
Love that.
it's so funny. I was just saying to her the other day, she works for a hospital system. She has to put in her time off like 6 months ahead of time. And every day that she puts in, I just block on my schedule.
Yeah.
And I actually asked her, I was like, do you ever want to take a day off that I'm working, that I'm like not next to you? She's like, yeah, maybe once in a while. But, but it's nice having that freedom. I mean,
seriously,
obviously, like, to reiterate what Mike said, be nice to make more and more money, but not at I think neither of us is willing to really sacrifice that freedom totally. So
I resonate with that so much too, because I feel like in our society with social media and everything, like everyone's trying to build like $100 million companies here where like you don't have to do that if you're an entrepreneur. You can have a freaking awesome business and an awesome life at the same time. And I'm all about creating freedom for myself through everything I'm doing. So I think redefining what being a business owner is and what it can be is super important for the younger generation to know, like, you don't have to just try to get rich all day. Like there's more to life and more to business, and it's cool to see you guys have that same mentality.
Absolutely. I mean, I get it, like, that people want to have like big companies that make lots of money. Like, again, like, I think everybody has that kind of dream and stuff, but I think, as I've been in the practice for a while and I've started my own business, it's just your priorities change a little bit. And it's like, if we have an employee that wants to make, we won't cap that. Like, if you want to work really hard because maybe you're young, you don't have a family started yet, and you want to see more people, like, that's awesome. We'll give you every resource that we possibly could for that employee to do that.
Yeah.
But if you also want to have a little bit more work-life, like, we're all for that too. We will foster that, that relationship between the business and you.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
So in terms of like how you guys generate business, is it really mostly referral based still? Are you doing any sort of marketing, advertising? Like, what does your lead generation look like?
Yeah, word of mouth is still by far our biggest source, whether that's past clients referring, their friends and family members, or like Mike said, local, trainers and clinicians and things like that. We tend to see people from coaches and strength coaches, personal trainers, quite a bit, because we end up being at similar events and networking events and things like that in the fitness space where we meet these people. We try to do workshops every now and then that are more educational and free to the community. So whether that's on back pain or hip mobility or whatever topic, that'll usually be at another gym or fitness center. So it gives them something to offer their clients and their members, but it gives us a little bit more exposure as well.
Absolutely.
In the community. So recently, Google has been, a lot of people have been just finding us on Google.
Just searching physical therapy, Rochester, New York.
Yeah, so I think our Google presence maybe is increasing. Not really with us trying to do that at all. I don't know if it's from having more reviews.
I think it's the reviews. The reviews really help.
Yeah.
You guys have quite a few.
You
have over 100 now, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the way that I wanted it. Again, like, it goes back to, I want to see people that want to see us. I don't want to see people that just feel like they have to go because someone, like, my doctor told me I need to do PT. Like, so I think, the reviews hold a lot of value when people are truly looking for an experience rather than just to get through the system for that next MRI, for that injection or something like that. Yeah. So
I think we've also been better at asking people to leave us reviews.
Yeah.
when somebody's in front of us and talking about how they've had such a positive experience, just.
It's like, wait a second, log in right here
exactly.
real quick.
Yeah. Oh, do you mind sharing it on Google? So
yes.
People are always willing to.
And that's like a hard thing to do at first. I think that goes like people don't speak about that. It's really hard to say, like, hey, can you write that down? Like,
it feels awkward.
Yeah. Like, that's really good for other people to hear your story. They might have a similar story.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have found us that way. Hey, I read this review. It kind of resonated with me. So I wanted to, so we try not to say just don't write like they are good 5 stars. You know what I mean? Like,
great.
Give us some content because people will
yeah.
find us probably from your story. It might help someone else.
Absolutely. So, have you guys done video testimonials at all yet? Or
no, something we thought about. But
yeah, we've played around.
You know, a good videographer.
I do know one.
Yeah, good.
No, but I think they're like testimonies in general, like, are so powerful. Like, it doesn't, like, you can do all the marketing and sales in the world, like, if you just have a human being who had a great experience with you guys and then someone else who has the same issue saw how great of experience they had with you, that's the most powerful marketing in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing how much we'll trust a stranger's opinion. Right?
Yeah.
You're going to go out to eat. The first thing you do is look at the reviews.
Yep.
And, oh, John said they have good tacos. I
It's like,
trust
who the
John.
hell is John?
Yeah. So, I think the more in our world, if we can get people to share their story, I think that just resonates with people because a lot of people have similar issues. So,
Yep.
a lot of people have back pain, knee pain, shoulder pain. So, if they just see that success in other people, then it's just going to be easier for them to take that first step.
Partnerships can be a great thing and hard thing at the same time. Can you guys talk about any tips for people watching who maybe have a business partner, thinking about having a business partner, how that dynamic works, what tips you guys have to navigate those waters, anything you got?
I would say work together first.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people they're friends and maybe come up with an idea and jump right into a partnership. Mike and I had 2 to 3 years of working together, in ROC Physical Therapy with me as an employee before we split ownership. So I think that just gave us the kind of the test run, just knowing that we were compatible in that sense.
Yeah. I mean, the conversation started from like day one, like when Sean, when we were talking about bringing him on as an employee, and he's like, my long-term goal is I want to be a part of it. I want a part of ROC PT, and I was for it right away. And it's like, but we had to see, do we work well together? Do we truly have like the same styles? I felt like, this is like my baby sort of thing. So I have like this deep connection to the company. Does he have that, or is he just looking, and it all actually organically worked out. Like, I could see how much, even as an employee, some of the things he was doing that wasn't asked of him to do, taking over the social media, like it really proved like, all right, he's going to care about the company just like I am. When it came down to talking numbers and talking about like what it's going to look like as ownership splits and, whose role and who does this and what happens if, someone passes. When you get into those really tough conversations, I wouldn't say it was easy. Like we were able to have really good conversations about it. But sometimes we'd have a difference of opinion on how to handle situations. So I think the most powerful thing we did is we actually wrote it out. You know what I mean? Like we literally came up with a contract, bylaws for the company that hopefully if anything ever came up, it's just written out and there's no clear. I want to do this and I want to do that. So I think like once we got into that, it was difficult conversations to have, but we always came to the same product at the end or same conversation at the end came up and we agreed. So,
and you go down these rabbit holes about situations that are never ever going to happen, but you just got to talk it over and have some sort of a plan in place before you get into it.
Yeah.
I would say one of our strengths and weaknesses as a partnership is that we're very similar. So I think we have similar strengths, but then there's definitely places where we're lacking, but the other one doesn't pick up the slack because we're both lacking. So that's where bringing on like Shelby has been really helpful. She's more organizational than us, and she kind of keeps us in line, keeps us on task. So I think partnership's a great thing. It's nice having somebody that's going through the same thing as you, quite literally, and being able to work together through everything.
Yeah, they're tough. I mean, and I think the biggest thing you guys hit on there is like getting it down on paper, like writing down exact expectations, even if it's not, it should be in a legal form, but even that's not the point of it. The point is like, this is what we both agreed to. These are our roles, responsibilities, expectations. And I think, if people are getting into business with maybe family members, friends, that can feel very awkward to do that, but it's so necessary because God forbid something does happen or you come to a fork in the road. Like life is messy and you want to have that all written out and again, expectations set in the beginning to avoid any catastrophes. I've had a couple real estate investors on the show, and one good thing they always recommend for partnerships is like, before you commit to like building a real estate company with someone, flip a house with them. You know what I mean? Like test the water. And that's exactly what you guys did with you being an employee for a little bit. Like you were able to ride it out and see, okay, who's this Sean guy? Like what's his character like? And over time you see what kind of person they are. And and then you commit to like a full-time marriage or whatever you want to call it. So that's all great stuff right there.
And like early on, I was like a little bit nervous because I already had known Sean when I hired him. You know what I mean? I wouldn't say like we were friends at that point. You know, we kind of knew of each other. So, you know, part of me was like, we get along so well and we do the same things. We have a lot of the same interests. Like, we're going to be really good friends. But as the business owner and then an employee relationship at the time, I was like trying to keep it at arm's length. But I think that kind of supported the fact that like, I do want to bring him in as a co-owner because I can't keep it like we're just developing too good of a relationship, I guess you want to say. That it was just, it made sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I couldn't keep that barrier of like employee, employer. I had to just let it happen because it was going to be great for everybody.
What's the biggest lesson that you've learned being an entrepreneur so far? I'm sure there's lots of them, but
yeah, I mean, if you're going to bet on yourself, it's really hard to be an entrepreneur. Like that first step, you know, like you got to take this huge first step. At least in my profession and what I was doing, I didn't really think that was the hard part. Like I knew I would work hard. I was going to try and make this work. And then everybody brings up, well, what if it didn't? I would have went somewhere else and got a job. You know what I mean? And I know everybody maybe not have that ability. Like luckily we're working in healthcare. Jobs are plentiful. You can work for clinics, you can hospitals, you can move and all that. My wife also works in healthcare. So I knew that if it didn't work, it's not like I'd be stuck. I would just have to change directions, right? But I knew I'm very like task oriented. I knew I could do it. So that was kind of the easy part of getting into it. So, you know, bet on yourself if you trust yourself because you'll make it work. Yep. I mean, you really will.
I would say we're both pretty good at not sweating small stuff.
Yeah, the small stuff.
yeah.
You know, sometimes things in the moment seem larger than they are.
Yeah.
But we tend to keep a level head and we're usually able to just, you know, tomorrow's going to come and everything's going to be fine. So I think that goes along with betting on yourself. Like I think we trust ourselves and we just, you know, things have been fine, luckily so far.
Yeah.
Is that a mindset that you guys think you just were born with, or like have you cultivated it in some way, shape, or form? Like staying calm and cool, collected, level-headed.
I think that has always been a little bit of my personality. Not getting really worked up about things. I did for a while read quite a bit of like Stoic philosophy.
I love it.
So you know,
big
just
Ryan Holiday guy.
Yep, exactly. Just controlling the controllables, right? It's just if something's out of your control, you know, patients are canceling, phone's not ringing, like, you know, there's probably things we can do about it, about you know, more marketing, things like that. But you can't control every little thing that happens in your business. So you know, just knowing where you can intervene and what's out of your control.
Yeah, it's huge. If you try to control everything, you'll go nuts.
I was the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Until like recent years, and maybe ROC PT is part of like why I don't sweat the small stuff as much anymore.
Yeah, talk about that.
But I mean, like growing up, I was very much like I had the mentality of like I need to put 100% effort into everything I do. Like I gotta try and do it the first time, the right time. You know, don't let things go. Things like that. How do I fix things that are going wrong right away? I can't like forget about it. And I don't really know. I think maybe when I started having kids, that switched a little bit because so many things are out of your control. You know what I mean? And you kind of just got to learn to go with it. So I guess we'll have to ask my wife about that, like when that switch happened, because I was very much not like that. Growing up, you know, with sports, I always kind of expected probably too much out of myself and put more undue stress. Maybe that was a little bit helpful getting the business started.
Sure.
But as it's grown, like you said, like there's always tomorrow. You'll figure it out, especially now when you have like a partner that you can, you know, bounce ideas off of. And I know conversations we have, I'm always like, we need to like do that. You know what? Let's just table it. You know, let's go with the easy answer and table it today and think about it. So I've been getting better at it.
Yeah. Well, it's cool to see that like you can make that change because there's so many things in life that are like learnable. I feel like I think there's that argument of like if you're born an entrepreneur or if you can be, you know, formed into one. And certainly for me, like I wasn't born an entrepreneur, but here I am doing all these entrepreneurial things because I learned the skills it takes to be an entrepreneur. It's inspiring and it's comforting knowing that it's okay if you think you're lacking skills because you can learn them.
And everybody has a different learning style, right? We know that. And like I tried to go down the route when I started this company of like I need to read blogs and business books and all that. And I was like, I can't do it. Like what worked best for me is talking to people, going out and talking with other business owners and how did you do things? Like I couldn't sit there and read all these like how-to books on starting a company. I did better just kind of like trying, going out there if I made a mistake, fixing it sort of thing. So, and that's always, I think, been more of my mentality of like, I want to actually get to ground level and talk to the people doing it, not read a book that 1,000 other people are reading. You know what I mean? Because maybe I'll do something different that works better. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I like got the switch, I think, from not thinking about entrepreneurship to doing it is just like seeing how people do it and then seeing how, you know, that could improve my out of work life as well.
Yeah. Well, I honestly think it's the best way, the way you did it, because I'm kind of the opposite. I read a lot of books and I wanted to feel like I was in control. You can read as much as you want. There's situations in life and business where like just can't see it coming. And now I feel like I'm leaning more towards that, where I don't read as many books. I'm just like operating the business, letting my clients tell me what I need to learn about, and then seeking out that information versus like trying to get everything perfect before executing, if that makes sense.
I think you bring up a good point with that is like listening to your clients. Like I can't tell you how many things that we've implemented in our company because clients have brought it up versus us having this spectacular idea that we saw somewhere, you know what I mean? So, you know, back before we were with Elevate, you know, we have people coming to us and being like, I'm done with PT, I feel great, but I want to keep working out with you. And that developed into what we call our continuity program, where like patients that were better could stick with us in general fit. And now we have some of the best trainers, if not the best trainers in Rochester, to refer them to. But a lot of those ideas kind of started by listening to what the people that are paying for your services want. And it's just like, well, then let's do it.
Of course.
Like you'll be the first person. Let's trial it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, you know, you want this program or you want to see us this many times and you want it to be a different type of membership or package or whatever it is. Let's make it work. Let's figure it out.
It's just like, ask them, what do they want? Like
not rocket science.
right in front of you. Like don't try to invent something. Like ask them what they want, go create it for them.
That even ties into like kind of the experience that we try to create for people. I think in healthcare in general, people just don't feel heard, like they don't feel listened to. And we hear it all the time where somebody's gone to their primary and maybe, you know, other professionals as well, where they just feel like they get 5 minutes with their doctor or whatever. And then they're on their way. Maybe they're given a medication or whatever. So, you know, we spend a lot of time with people. We're all one-on-one, obviously. So we have that time. And one of the things that we implemented pretty early on was just asking the person straight up, you know, what do you want to get out of today? And it's such a simple question, but, you know, we have our idea of how a session should go. But if that's not their expectation, or if that's not what they're looking to get out of that session, and we don't meet their expectation, then no matter how good of a job we feel like we did them a disservice. So we ask people that pretty much every session, and especially in the first session. Some people might just want to have a better understanding of what's going on with their back and why it hurts. Other people might want to have create a mobility program that they can do every day. Other people might want to get into strength training. So, you know, it's really just kind of asking the client what do they want and tailoring it to exactly what they want. So.
And people that come see us from other places, I mean, that's pretty much the issue. It's not like they didn't like their physical therapist. Maybe sometimes they aren't getting better or something, but it was just like I wasn't getting what I anticipated.
What I wanted, what I needed, yeah.
Which goes into a whole nother topic of how bad the physical therapy is as explaining what physical therapy is. Like you can ask so many people in our community, like, what's physical therapy? And you'll get so many different answers.
What is it to you guys?
We are the movement experts when it comes to, you know, the body, right? So it goes way beyond just rehabbing an injury. It can be preventative. It can be lifestyle. It can be wellness. It can be mental, physical, and emotional. You know, it can be coaching someone. It could be, you know, being a physical touch that makes someone feels better. We have the ability in physical therapy to put on so many hats, but the community just doesn't know what hats we can wear. And I think that's what we really try and push through our model is that you don't have to come to us just because you we've had pain for 5 weeks. We're starting to see this trend at our company, and I don't know if other companies are seeing it, but at our company where we're getting clients that are coming to us as their primary care physician for their body. They're skipping the PCP and the orthopedic surgeons because they can't get in. Like right now in Rochester with some of these bigger healthcare systems, it's taking months for them to get an appointment, weeks for them to get an appointment. Where we can usually guarantee, if not same day, next day, or same week appointment, depending on their schedule and ours. And, they get injured playing a sport, and we can come in and we literally can provide a diagnosis that day. And if it's something that isn't for PT, we have the relationships with doctors to refer them out, So like an example, a few weeks ago, knee injury, past patient gave them our name. The person came in, and we're like, I don't like how this feels. So we sent them to orthopedic. The orthopedic doctor knows us, trusted us, what we were telling them. They got them in the next 2 or 3 days, got the MRI already approved, and it just expedited the service. They didn't have to go to the PCP, who sends them to PT, who sends them to ortho. So, just listening to our patients and trying to explain to them what we actually can do as physical therapists, because again, most of them don't know, has really also, I think, set us apart in our brand apart.
What do you guys do in your daily lives to cultivate a strong mindset? Habits, routines? How do you keep that mind sharp as entrepreneurs?
Exercise.
Yeah. We have to eat, live, and breathe that. You know what I mean? So
practice what you preach.
You
literally.
got to.
Yeah. I think it's pretty well known now, the benefits of exercise beyond the physical health. Just in terms of mental health and
it's huge.
And even now it's one of the frontline interventions for depression, right? It's like it affects us in such a tremendous way that I think interviewing all these entrepreneurs and people that are in high positions, like I'm sure they all exercise daily.
Oh yeah.
It's like
every time I ask, they're like, gym.
Yep. It's such a part of people's lives when they're at that level. So I'd say exercise is a big one. I try to get outside a lot. I know Mike's he's a big outdoors nature guy. My wife and I like to hike a lot. I think a big one for me that I need to get better at is kind of separation. It goes back to that balance, but I think when you are a business owner, it's so easy to try to be on all the time. Or not even try, but it's just always in the back of your mind. I'll be having dinner at home and phone rings, which means my watch rings, and I look down and see it's somebody calling the business line, and there's just this temptation to step away to answer it, and it could be a potential client, and but somebody's not gonna not come see us because I didn't answer the phone when I was having dinner.
At dinner time, right?
Just trying to create that separation and have hours that are work and hours that are home with family. So I think that's something I'm getting better at.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
I struggle with it. I've gotten a little bit better, but I don't have kids yet. But I know when my wife and I do have kids, I want to be 100% present for them. I want to shut off business and because time is just so precious and it's so important to me. So, but it is a hard thing to do when that is the business is what puts food on your table and taking care of it. There's a certain responsibility that you're almost wired that way because that's how you started and grew the business, is being that responsive and great customer service and being on the clock all the time.
Well, I think the other thing that does, creating that separation allows you, when you are on, to be really on. I think instead of operating at 75% all the time, you can be at 100% for that period of time that you are in business mode, and then you get a break.
Yeah.
So
it was the hardest thing, when I started out with that separation, especially when I had my first kid and COVID and things. It was oh my God, my phone's ringing. You got to take the baby and we got to get this going.
Yeah.
And, put food on the table or however you want to say it. But for me, I get home from work every day and I just turn the truck off and I just sit there for a minute. And it's just I try to leave the work at work and just decompress, take a couple deep breaths, get out of the
Love
car.
that.
And to my family, my daughter will be in the doorway. My 4-year-old will be in the doorway, why is Dad still in his truck?
What are you doing? Yeah.
Sometimes I'll see her, sometimes I won't. If I see her, I get right out. But it's just kind of decompressing. And then you go in, and now I'm Dad. My hat's I'm 100% into Dad, and I think he's right. Is when you can separate that, you're better at both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure, there's days where it's like, I know he's got clients, I'm still home, I got the 2 kids, they're hungry, and like I have to answer this phone call or something like that. It does happen, but it's much less than when I first started the company because I make it that way. So
I had one guest, a really cool thing he does. He says when he gets home at the end of the day, he touches the railing,
yep.
and that's his cue that work is shut off. He
Yep.
goes into the house, and I just thought that was a really cool, like having that cue for you, like sitting in your car, just like taking that moment and disconnecting.
Yep. I think it's really important because again, it goes back to the what do I want physical therapy to be for not just Sean and I, but for future employees. And I want it to be a lifestyle. I want it to be a part of, their life where, yes, it's their job, but it's just their job.
Yeah.
I care more about, your work-life balance than I feel like I ever got from any employers I worked for. So, that's the person that we would look for is who wants that. You know what I mean? Maybe I can't pay you as much as like a huge company or something like that, but I can guarantee you'll have a really good work-life balance. So
And people want that and value that so much. And
yeah.
there might be people watching right now who want that. So goals for the future. I know we already kind of touched on this, but like, what is that vision over the next, say, 3 to 5 years for you guys? Where do you see this going?
Kind of like Mike said earlier, I think we want to keep things intimate. We don't want to lose our quality for the sake of growth. I think that looks like possibly a couple locations, which is something that we've talked about. A small team at each location, trying to find the best therapists in the area. They can work alongside us, not just hiring to hire, but really making sure somebody's number one, a culture fit, but also, is really a top tier therapist to work with us. I think in the more short term, one thing that we've talked about is that before we go that route of bringing on more team and staff, we really need to, for ourselves, get more organized in terms of outlining procedures and operations and things like that.
Processes,
that have always just come natural between the two of us because we're so similar.
Right.
But how do we, when we bring somebody on, what's that process like? And onboarding, getting them all on the same page of, this is kind of how we do things. Not that we want to dictate how another therapist treats, but we do want ROC Physical Therapy as a whole to have
standards, right?
A certain standard. Yeah. So that's something that we don't want to wait until we're ready to hire to start to, get those things rolling. So I think that's probably a next year kind of goal for us.
Yeah.
When Sean came on, it was just like, he's like, what do I do if I want a day off? I'm like, I don't know, text me. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
I guess we should have a handbook, right?
Right.
I mean, so we ended up.
And I was fine with that, right? But somebody else might not be, right? Somebody else probably wants, more structure. So,
and I think it'll help us in general too, just
For sure.
a little more structure. And, I guess we're a little bit free spirited in terms of how we do things. And I think a lot of people that do see us kind of like how it doesn't feel rigid and it feels like we really are their physical therapist.
Yeah. Well, it's a big undertaking, it feels like. And like, I'm going through it too, but like one step at a time, just like knocking it out little by little. Because if you try to all at once make this huge process for new employees coming on, it just seems like it's a daunting task and it's a lot on your plate to do.
And I hear about people putting together, SOPs for every little thing. This is
Every little time. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like this is how you answer the phone. This is how you,
This is how you go to the bathroom.
This is
You
how you
wash your
turn
hands.
the lights, right? Makes me think of John Wooden, the legendary basketball coach, right? The first thing he would teach his guys in practice, first day of practice, how to tie their shoes. So, this is how you put on your sneakers. So I don't know how detailed we need to get.
Yeah.
But we definitely need, I guess more than what we have now because we don't need it right now.
Sure.
But we will in the future. So
Where do you guys see your next location being potentially? Because it's just one right now at Elevate, right?
Yeah, so we moved from our standalone space as our lease ended to Elevate in about a month ago, right?
Yes,
So, I mean, we really had like a good discussion on, do we want to go into an existing company or do we had our own space within a building before, or did we want to expand our own space? And that's how we actually met Nick, is we went and looked at the old space he had. And then he's like, got to come see the new stuff. And that's how it came about. And it's been so smooth. Like, it's been awesome. It's been an experience. And, so I could see like in a short term, like if we were ready for that second clinic, doing something very similar of looking for like-minded individuals, having conversations with the people we have relationships now, like Nick, and saying like, have you thought about a second location? You know what I mean? Sort of thing. We like to be centered. We went back and forth. Should we go west side, east side, center? I think center is amazing. I think we will never lose a center presence to Rochester, like being in the central part of the city. But I could see like 2 locations, one being east, one being west.
Yeah.
So just for convenience wise, but we've never really had anybody say, I'm not seeing you because of where you're located. Like we've had people come up from Hamlin. We've had people come from the southern tier, Canandaigua, like
Ithaca,
really?
I had one person flying from West Virginia when I first started that had just been referred to me. So, and they were a professor up here. So anytime they flew up, they would just come see us. So we've had people from all over.
Well, now my cousin Corey, California, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, if we could be, like east, west, central, I think would probably be ideal with, 2 to 5 therapists at each location. That would probably be the long-term goal.
Cool.
Right now, I just want, like, we have such an awesome place now. I want to maximize the use of that space at Elevate.
I mean, it's a great setup. And again, Nick is just one hell of a human being. He really is. And what he's building there. And it's so cool seeing you guys in there and the partnership that you guys have formed. And just love seeing there every day when I'm getting my pump in.
Getting your pump.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So thank you guys for being here today. This has been really awesome to hear your story and wisdom. And I think people watching will get a lot of value out of it. Where can people connect with you social media wise? It's just ROC Physical Therapy on Instagram.
ROC PT Performance.
ROC PT Performance.
Yep. You have our website. rocptperformance.com. You can find us on Facebook. Instagram is probably where
we have a
most prominent.
YouTube page that we regularly throw up like exercises and stuff.
Nice.
And, for like a library. Obviously, come right over to Elevate, stop in, say, hey, check out that awesome space. You probably won't want to leave. So I think one thing maybe that we didn't touch on is like how we grew up being an integrated company. Like I started out working with chiropractors and massage therapists and personal trainers, and that's how I helped form the basis of this company. And now at Elevate, we're expanding that offering. You know what I mean? Like we have a huge amount of space with no physical barrier. There's chiro, there's massage, personal training, there's physical therapy. It's like a one-stop shop of integrated care run by individuals who all have a very similar mentality of like client comes first. And I'd be hard pressed to say that there's any other facility like it in Rochester.
There's not. It's cool to be around that energy, and I got my whole team memberships. I'm sure you guys see them there. Man. And the fact that we're 3 minutes away is even better. So check out Elevate if you haven't, people. It's best gym in Rochester. I truly believe that. These guys are doing amazing things there. So thank you guys again for being here today. And thank you guys for tuning in. Every episode means the world to me, really. Like I said, the show is just for the younger generation to teach them real, raw education of what entrepreneurship really is like and things that you just don't get in books and in school and the modern education system. So just super passionate about bringing people like you guys on. So thank you again for being here. And
thank you.
We will catch you guys in the next episode. Take care.